Thanks for staying with us. So, with over 27 million cattle, which is more than the entire human population of Cameroon, and a market valuation of about 4.14 trillion naira, and no developed industry, Nigeria's cattle industry is causing major problems in the country due to open grazing if a ranching industry is not developed quickly. Nigeria stands to benefit not just from solving the problems between farmers and the local communities and the entire cattle headers, but also stimulating the huge economic benefits and impacts from job creation. Joining us now on the show to shed better light on this is our own public affairs analyst, Mr. Roman Esenghale. Welcome to the show. It's always good to have you around.
Thank you.
I know you go to the abroad, you come back, you're around the world, you're in demand, but it's good to have you in Nigeria at this time. Okay, so you can call us on 081-270-53687, 091-390-7694. You can tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag your TVC so we can read your tweets. Now, herders, farmers clashes. All the states are in agreement that they don't want open grazing. Somebody will say, I don't even have any land to give to you in the first place. In your view, how economically beneficial is ranching to not just the individual states, to the country at large? And is that the way to go at this time?
Thank you for having me on the program. I think if we have to look at it in an in-depth situation, we are a group of people that don't understand what value chain is. Now, value chain creates industries, and industries are all about value chain. Now, when I sat down to do this analysis because of what was going on, I said, okay, as a citizen, I remembered what my white neighbor told me some time ago. He said that the first step to failure in any society is when you leave everything to the government. Because the governments are just people like you who are equally looking for answers. So in your own little way, you kind of try to do something to contribute to national development. So I had to, I'm a numbers person, right? And I know that in this society, we don't really look at numbers. We don't look at data. If you ask the white man, go right, he's going to ask you, why are you telling me to go right? You have to justify it either from facts or from empirical data. You understand? So, as I said earlier, we don't understand the value chain system. Value chains create industries, and it's all about, you know, let's use the ranching industry as an example, right? If you look at the ranching industry, there are over 6 value chains that can be created. If you ranch your cattle, there is dairy, there is leather, there is corned beef, there is logistics, the veterinary industry will explode, construction will explode too because you have to build the ranches, right? Now, and then the hay. Now, take the hay industry, right? If you're looking at the hay industry, that's agriculture on its own, right? Now, when you now take that, the hay industry also has its own value chain. And then let us even take one part of the value chain of the hay industry, which is agriculture. The fertilizer industry will benefit. When you take the fertilizer industry again, break it down, you have the bagging industry. So it's, by the time we finished calculating, the ripple effect, we were looking at almost about between 45 to 50 industries that will be created if we develop a ranching industry. And that's what you call, economic impact, right? It's not just you ranch the cattle and that's it. Because of the ripple effect, it creates that economic impact across board. And when we looked at that of Nigeria, the capacity of adding between 150 to 180 billion US dollars annually, creating over between 1.5 to 2 million jobs annually, is there.
Where was this data? I'm so sorry I want to follow up on this issue of value chain. Are there ethno-socioeconomic factors that are delaying the understanding of this value chain you're describing? Because people have been doing this for hundreds of years and in a certain way. What are the factors that are causing this not to be understood in the Nigerian family?
In Nigeria?
Yes.
Okay, see, we are a very much fractionalized society.
Sadly.
Yeah, right? Our fractionalization is built along ethno-linguistics and religious divides, right? We don't trust each other.
Nope.
Even the Bible says that a house divided among itself cannot stand. And we have so much potential, right, that if we unite, for Christ's sake, if we come together to say, let us harness our strength, the whole of Africa will stand still.
Absolutely.
And we will be a nation to reckon with. But because we don't trust each other, the man next door, the man in the north does not trust the easterner does not trust the man in the northerner does not trust the southwest is complaining about the south. So it becomes a situation whereby most of the advantages before us are being lost.
Right, go ahead.
So I'm very passionate about the agric industry, falls within my real estate industry, and I would say that we haven't, there's a value chain that we haven't maximized on ground. So I'm feeling like, okay, I'm hearing this about the ranching value chain, but we have the poultry value chain.
It's
that we didn't even, we haven't, to a large extent, this last year there was a major, and it happens year on year. Like the hay you said was a value chain. The maize is a value chain for poultry, but the value chain of maize feeding the chicken, we haven't been able to meet it. We are importing. That's something that we have abundance of land to produce. So it still brings me back to the government's part in saying, what's the framework of how we can maximize the value chain? So we have, if we go into ranching, one would have to import the species. Let's even say we want the best species, we import them. Then we might be importing food as well, which means that what's the value chain if we're importing everything we need to create the ranching industry?
There are four things that drive industrialization. One is innovation, right? You innovate, right? The second one is government policy. The third one is availability of resource demand. And the fourth is industrial infrastructures. You understand? Now, when you innovate, the next thing the government is supposed to do, there are opportunities in it, bring out policies that quickly will support what products you are bringing into the market. You understand? Now, this value chain system, as you said, even in the poultry industry, it's not only in the poultry industry. The maize you're talking about, right? If you go abroad, you see hay fields everywhere, right? At first, you know, when I used to see those hay fields and I see the corn being planted so close to each other, I question myself, like, how are this corn going to mature? They're too close, right? Then later, you drive by the same place, they're not harvesting the corn. Yes, and then it goes dry. The next thing is you see the bales, the hay bales. So they are all planted just for, and that's because they have that only 5 to 6 months to plant. But the interesting thing you see is that those things are also equally exported. It is not just for their local consumption only. There are a lot of countries. So if we develop a ranching industry in Nigeria, right, we stand a chance of not only attending to the local industry, we have the capacity to also export our products.
Right, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll go back to the ethno-religious differences. For me, because I believe that most of these policies, these ideas are not, you know, we are very much aware of them. We understand their benefits and how it will help us. But I do feel that because of how factionalized, as you said, we are, we would never get to enjoy the benefits of whatever good policies or good ideas that economists have. So I think what our country would need, as an economist, would be ideas of how to better communicate to our different ethnic groups and our different religious groups, because for some reason, even though there is what should bring us together, is what divides us across regions. So the RUGA, and then the NLTP, when you look at them together, it's like the same thing. They are almost asking for the same thing, almost proposing the same thing. But you cannot call Ruga in some areas. You cannot even say that word Ruga in some areas, and you cannot. And using NLTP in some areas is like you're inciting something else.
Right.
So it's not really about the policies, but how do we get Nigerians to understand that you know, the benefits of these policies.
Now, can let me add to what Mariam is saying, because we've been talking about the issue of deregulation. The truth is that we're having these conversations because some people are saying, I don't understand certain cultures, certain way of lives. And we're saying, oh, you're an economist. These are the benefits. And people are saying, sorry, I don't get it. It's not part of who I am. That's what we've done for the past 100 years. My question, therefore, to you is, to add to what Mariam was just saying, is it possible that the solution to this problem is where every region decide on how they want to handle this, so that somebody else can even see the economic benefits going forward? Because if we, let's not force the hand of another group to adopt these ideas, these value chain concepts. Why don't we just do it the way you are saying it in certain regions and still see the benefits of it? Maybe that can begin to implement in other regions.
If you watch the video I put online, right, about this whole issue, I actually analyzed Nigeria's weather and that of Egypt. Now, cattle come down from the north, right, to graze. But if we develop the ranching industry and develop the value chains, hay is part of the value chain. Why I compared Nigeria to Egypt was because even in Egypt, their minimal rainfall, or sorry, the maximum rainfall they have is less than that of the north. And yet, they still grow hay, not only for local consumption, but also from export. Of the 19 countries that hold about 92% of the total export of hay in the world, Egypt is one of them. There are only 3 African countries: Sudan, South Africa, and Egypt. And Egypt holds, I think, maybe 0.92% or so of the total hay exported in the world. So ranching in the north is not impossible. Let me tell you again, you see, even in the dry seasons in Nigeria, if you plant with proper irrigation, you can harvest bountifully.
100%.
So it's not about they must come down south, or the cattle in the east must come down west, or the cattle in the west must go down east. No. Every state can actually accommodate their ranching and develop the hay industry. And you find out that at the end of the day, they will not only, as I said earlier, they will not only cater for the local market, but we have the potential to also export and bring in forex.
We see the benefit.
Add something.
Yeah,
so just to elaborate a bit, so we have, in talking about ranching and herders and farmers, we have some states in the southeast that are saying we would not allow this in our state. We have no land to give towards this. And then we have some states that are saying it's okay, we have started. And then we also had a situation where people that bring cattle from the north to the south to sell, they had a situation where they were held up for so long, it affected their business. Their businesses that during the NSAS were destroyed. And it almost became like it was a north problem. You and your cow problem, it's your problem. But we all eat meat. We're all part of this business. So already for me, it's the division there that affects the ranching or the benefits much more than the policy itself or the ideas themselves. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I get you.
Yes.
Okay. We need to look beyond, as we said, the religious divisions between us, right? We are looking at a $4.12 trillion naira economy that is not developed. Now, we are talking 27% unemployment. We're talking diversification. Already as we speak, the economy is in a reactive state, of which, if we do not diversify, in another 5-10 years, we are going to be in a serious crisis situation. There's a disruptive technology that is going to make petroleum obsolete the way coal went. And we are still focused on crude oil. So if we develop that industry, we are going to be able to diversify the economy to at least a certain extent.
Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation with you. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. Your view will be right back.
Go ahead, okay.
So for me, my own, I think one of the biggest challenges we have when it comes to seeing the financial benefit of this as a business, we're seeing it as a culture. And I think that's the biggest problem. Whenever we think of ranching or cattle rearing, we see it as a culture of some people. For me and my friends and partners at Umera, it's a business. We have cattle. We are not northerners. We are not from, do you understand? This is not our culture. For us, ranching has to become a business. The southeastern people, how do we communicate to them that ranching is a business? That allowing a ranch in your state is going to provide A, B, C, D value chain employment for your people. It is not that you are allowing northerners settle in your community, but you're providing a business opportunity for ranching in your state. Is it that the NLTP and Ruga did not break that down, or we're not just not studying it to understand the business angle of ranching?
Okay, I think one of the major things that government needs to do, right? As I said earlier, we are not a number society. If you see the numbers and people know what they stand to benefit and what it will create, right? They start to think differently. Everybody is being driven by sentiments. Oh, they want to bring this thing. But until you see the economic benefit, right? They say if you want to get someone to do something, appeal to their self-interest. Don't appeal to their conscience. If I want you to do something now, and I come to you and what you stand to benefit from it, you will take actions. You understand? So if we use that strategy, this is going to bring this X amount of GDP to your state. It's going to create this amount of jobs. It is not that it is the Northerners that are coming, because that's where the distrust is. That the Northerners, even if the Northerners come, for Christ's sake, we are all one Nigeria, right? And we can as well regulate whatever we need to do. It is not that they are coming to take over your land.
Let me go back to what I was trying to say earlier, because I feel strongly that this communication have probably happened.
Sorry?
I mean, this communication to various sectors and stakeholders in the agri industry have probably happened at different levels. But there is that strong cultural and linguistic issues and factors and religious factors that has been causing a problem and making it difficult for people to assimilate the benefits. So my question therefore to you, sir, is, do you think, let me go back to what I was trying to say earlier, we see the benefits in certain areas. Can we have a prototype of this happen in certain places where we are selling this to a certain region, maybe the middle, the North Central, for example? Provide a land, provide a ranch, and we begin to see this value chain develop. When others see the benefits, there could be that ripple effect. But it is difficult to sell that collective benefits across the country because there's still that difference that people still, there's a mistrust and a distrust, and we believe that they're not working our interest.
You're very correct. I heard the Ekiti state government, right, is doing something with Promasado or something, right? Good. Now, even just the dairy industry alone, the U.S. dairy industry is bigger than the whole Nigeria's GDP. The dairy industry in the U.S. alone, through its economic impact, as in 2019 or 2020, added $628 billion to the economy. That is bigger than and employs 3 million people, pays out $159 billion in wages. Now, one of the things that, we're still importing milk with over 27 million cattle. It's a disaster. Now, one of the things that also needs to be addressed, see, cattle feeding is expensive. Now, to grow hay, yes, to buy and feed your cattle, a cattle eats an average of 40 pounds. That's 18.1 kg of hay daily. So to feed a calf till it becomes full-grown cattle and blah, 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 it's going to cost you X amount of money. And I also feel that that's what these people who own cattle are running away from. So, do you understand? They are feeding their cattle free at the expense of the society.
Right.
And going into people's farms, destroying the farms, and getting those hay and yams and whatever they eat there free. And then the cattle now matures and they sell, right? So they have this very minimal cost to raise the cattle. For Christ's sake, do you understand?
That's the beauty.
Yes,
that
is part of the challenge. To raise a cattle, if you go abroad to raise a cattle, I've forgotten how much they said before it grows into it. Yeah, it's actually. But the good thing is this: you create industries. Apart from that, you put the cost of that hay into the meat, into the beef you're selling. You understand? If, for instance, okay, there are more hay down south, we consume most of the meat down south, right? We supply them hay up north.
Right.
They impute the cost of the hay into the cattle, bring it back down south, and we buy.
So it's like what happens with chicken. So as I said, that there's a major similarity between the poultry industry and the ranching of cattle. But the challenge is, with the beauty of poultry was there wasn't a full-fledged industry of poultry raising hens commercially. That needs to be changed. But we have a culture of people who have already lived their entire lives, generation to generation. The cattle rearer in our farm is a third-generation cattle rearer. His grandfather was in Kwara. He could move to Bomosho. So he doesn't understand the idea of buying hay. He doesn't understand that he would rather spend the entire, like 6 months traveling down south and coming back to Bomosho. That's the way it's been brought up. He doesn't get the fact that you should keep the cattle in one place and be buying hay for them. They don't have that calculation of the cost of buying the hay. So the real problem now is to reorientate a generational.
Isn't that difficult?
Yeah,
it is extremely
expensive. I keep talking about education.
That's the biggest
right?
problem.
See, when you think education is expensive, we are all suffering the consequences of ignorance. Let me tell you, see, I put this thing on my Facebook and put it on one group, the video I made, and some guy started saying, you know, the Southwest should start importing beef to compete with the North. I said, what utter rubbish. You understand? That he said the Brazilian beef was better, the northern cow, they looked so malnourished and blah, blah. So I now said, okay, this guy does not even understand why these cows look so lean. Now, you walk a cow from Maiduguri or Sokoto, you walk that cow to Lagos every year, and you walk the cow back. What meat will be left on the body of the cow?
Right. I have a call from Edo. Let me take this call. Good morning, are you there?
Yeah, good morning.
You're live.
From
Go ahead,
Edo
please.
State.
You're live.
Yes, I want to continue the history of ranching and the policies surrounding ranching and the Ruga project and all that.
Yes, go ahead.
The speaker, your guest in the studio listed 4 items that support driver and economy, innovation, what is the accelerate. I am a farmer and I worked in the north before returning back to Edo State. There are 2 issues why a lot of persons are not accepting this Ruga thing. Number 1, the integrity of the policy. Number 2, the antecedent
I didn't get that
of those
first
people
point.
the insincerity of the policy makers.
Okay.
The people who promote this national sector transformation, whatever. And the fact that supporting agriculture changes at will and are not regular is one of the reasons why people are expecting it. Number 2,
I can't hear you very well, Emmanuel. It's so difficult to hear what you're saying.
To tweet it.
But I'm trying to tweet it so we can hear. Go ahead.
Okay, so, you know, I can never have any conversation about meat and not talk about organic and GMO and things like that. And some of the conversations we hear is that beef from abroad is genetically modified and not healthy for you in the long run. And so the subsistence way in which we are raising our cattle here is more beneficial and it's healthier for all of us. So on that note, would it be wise to ranch them? Does ranching mean that would that take away from them being healthy? Would that automatically mean that to keep them, to make money from it, you have to genetically modify so that they make more milk or more meat at the expense of a healthy beef at the end of the day?
I think there are two different things, right? The ones are broad. When you're talking about hay, it depends on what you feed them with, right? Or if you're talking about
injections.
Yeah, exactly. Now, part of what they give them, which I haven't really researched on, right? But I know that by law, you don't just ranch in developed countries. The veterinary industry is very well involved, right? Because of certain diseases, and then they have to be certified that the meat is okay for the society to consume. Now, but when you look at the hay they consume, right, you see why those their cows, the cow and cattle are very fat? Do you know why?
No, that's not.
Good. They are ranched. They don't move.
I didn't know genetically that way.
No, they don't move. Look, see, the way you put on weight is all about input and output. If you eat more than you burn, you will put on weight. If you burn more than you eat or you need, you will lose weight. Do you understand? Now, you know what? Let them just ranch the cattle in Nigeria. Feed them for 1 year without moving.
That's why we need a prototype done. We
Sorry?
need something done. Let me take this
and you
back
see how they will put on weight.
Yeah.
And the good thing, sorry please, the good thing is that they will even sell for more.
Yeah.
You know why? Because they will look bigger and they will weigh bigger.
Yeah, let me take this call from Cornelius. Cornelius, are you there? Hello, are you there?
Hello.
You're live. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Mariah. Good morning.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, I'm calling from Yola.
Yes, Aminu. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Yeah. You see, people are talking about ranching. People are talking. Hello?
Yes, very clearly. We can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, people are talking about ranching, cattle upgrade, and all whatnot. We should all understand there are traditions. The traditions varies from one community to another. The communities in Adamawa State, who 80% of cattle production in Adamawa State are people that don't migrate. They are people that are settled with their own lands, with their own cattle.
Okay.
They go grazing in the morning, they come back in the evening, in their own communities, at their comfort. Their children go to school. What they need is capacity building. Change their mode of thinking to grow animal feed, whatever name you call it, whether it is hay, whether it is grass, whether it is maize, whatever. Let that capacity building be taken up. Number one. Number two, those migrant herdsmen that migrate from whatever part of the country to another part should copy from those that are already established. Because cattle business is a business that is more than 5 trillion naira in Nigeria. In Adamawa State, the cattle market in 1 week sells cows that is over 8 billion to 10 billion naira weekly. You can't tell me that Adamawa State is generating 10 billion naira from the Federation account. Certainly it is not. 37% GDP of Adamawa State is from animal husbandry. The value chain, the transportation, the market, the abattoirs, and those that transport the cattle down south. So it's a business that we need.
Aminu, let me stay with you for a moment, because one of the reasons why we have Mr. Roman here is to get more knowledge. So when you say capacity building, do you think there are windows of opportunities where we can develop the business as it is right now in Adamawa State as concerning ranching? What are the loopholes? What are those gaps that you think, based on what he has talked about, the value chain, that we can begin to look at in Adamawa to even make it bigger so that other states can see and learn and maybe then replicate across board?
Yeah. Morayo, one thing is certain. One thing is certain. We must understand, like any other business, cattle is another chain of business. We must divert emotions and sentiments and egos and prides and look at it as business, as Nigerian business. It is not only tagged to a Fulani person or a Yoruba person or whoever, or a Kanuri man. Let us look at it in the point of business. Let us just agree that there is a window of opportunity of over 5 trillion naira business that is virgin. Let's pick it up. Let's work on it. Right. Let's divert emotions and sentiments and hatred.
Thank you very much, Amino. Let me let you respond to...
you know, I totally agree with what he has said, 100%. But the only part which I have reservation for is that where he said the cattle herdsmen take their cattle out in the morning and they graze in their community and bring it back, right? It's still free grazing. You understand? They are not paying. And if you look at it, it's not only their farms they might end up at. They may go to other people's farms too and devour their crops. Do you understand? But how do you now benefit? How do you benefit from that value chain without creating that system in the first place? It's not possible. Now, if those cattle, for instance, you take them out, right? How do you want to now tap into the ones that are supposed to be the milk-generating ones? You're supposed to keep them in a place, develop some kind of system, right, where they milk the cows in the morning, you supply the dairy industry, you know, blah, blah, blah. They do whatever they want to do. Those cows are not supposed to be going, you know, like taken out in the morning. They could also what? Catch one disease or the other. So if you want to actually benefit and tap into the value chain, you must follow the rules and regulations.
Okay, so I want to go back to where Mariam went to. See, when it comes to me, I'm into this poultry matter partially. In this poultry, they are genetically modified. You know, you have a chicken and the chicken becomes mature in 6 weeks. That's not normal. That's genetically modified to produce broilers. It is fed. The chicken is fed for meat and created to produce at that rate. Many of the cattle that are ranched in developed countries are also like that, created for a 9-month period, which we've been studied, that in 9 months period, a calf would grow to maturity and ready for slaughter. The average Nigerian cattle takes 2 years from being a calf to be ready for slaughter. And that period, the cost of feeding is very high, which is why they do the free grazing. So now, this our new Ruga system and NLTP is going to be costing every cattle rearing person a whole lot of money to migrate into this system. And that's why they're asking the government to provide us framework and fund it. Why some other states are saying, we don't have the money for this, we don't have the land for this, we're not going to do this. It's a private business and private people are earning from it. So from the economical point of view, what would you advise the government to how would you advise them to fund this system? Because we know we provide subventions for power, for other companies. So how can we fund them?
I itemize 4 critical success factors for industrialization earlier.
I'll let you mention those critical success factors. Let me take this call from the UK. Onochi, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Go ahead, you're live, please.
Yeah, hi. Good morning to everyone. I just want to make a quick contribution.
Yes.
Basically, I think it's quite straightforward from what the gentleman here in the studio is saying. I think states in Nigeria should do a trial whereby they allocate big acres of land for local farmers to harness and cut the grasses and export it straight to the north. But if we have the railway system whereby transportation of hay from the south to the north will be very straightforward, because I think the problem we have in Nigeria is logistic, whereby the police will never let you travel with hay and not take your profit before it gets to the destination. So I think having a train logistic.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Onochi. You're going to talk about the 4 critical success factors you mentioned.
I wanted to respond to what she said. Innovation, government policy, availability of resource demand, and then industrial infrastructure. You see, the availability of resource demand comes, you have 3 three resource demands: financial resources, human resources, and natural resources, right? So here, what we are basically talking about is the financial and natural resources. Now, we have the capacity to provide the natural resources if we grow hay. What she's saying or asking is the financial resources. And government has a responsibility. It's a private business. But if you go to the Western world, how they got industrialized, right? You find that our government put things in place, either through taxation or through getting loans that may be interest-free for a period or at minimal cost, you understand? Just to help that industry pick up. And I think that is what government should do here. Look at that resource demand. If it's the money, okay, fine. We can provide loans to you people, repayable maybe after 10, 15, or 20 years at 1 or 2% or 3%. But something has to give. Because at the rate at which we're going, this thing might end up becoming another oil that we did not manage very well. At the end of the day, what is supposed to be a blessing became a curse.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting that you made that point, because the argument has also been that this is a private business. And some of the ideas that government has proposed in helping to start up this ranching has been looked at as well. It's a private business. Why is government getting involved? But, you know, our caller made a point about logistics. And I also wonder, why do we have to wait until cattle is put in trucks and containers and whatever, and move miles and miles to the south to be sold as, you know, as meat? Where is what would be better, given your analysis and your study, what would be better economically concerning logistics for cattle?
Well, even in developed countries, they move cattle distances.
Cut and frozen.
Yes. Well, yeah, cut and frozen, you're supplying beef. But in some cases, they move live cattle, right? But it's not something that is cast on concrete. If we develop the ranches across the country, this logistics will slow down, will reduce, right? And then the beef industry will pick up. You can slaughter your cow up north, bring the beef down south, right?
People eat that.
Yeah,
So
that was
We have a
what we were
culture
told.
where people would not eat that.
That was exactly, we did our own research. We wanted to do this same system of cut and freeze because it's expensive. It is like ×3 the cost of moving a live cattle than if you move a frozen cattle. So it made more sense to move a frozen cattle.
Yeah.
But the culture here in Nigeria, what we've been
Not
told is that economically, Nigerians will not buy a frozen beef. They rather go to the market where they see fresh beef, and they will say that the frozen beef is not fresh. So there are many issues that we need reorientation to a large extent.
You're right. You're right. It's partly cultural too. You understand? But remember, the Western world did not get to where they are today just by brushing aside policies, right? There were policies that the government said, look, this is how we need to do things so that the society will work. And they had to enforce it. So if that is what will make the society work, it's not what our culture is. It's not what our tradition is. The man that called earlier said, oh, we need to consider tradition, that these people have been doing this for a long time. If tradition is not working for you,
You're
you
brave.
now follow tradition.
We have to wrap up, unfortunately, but that's why it's really tough. That's the truth. We have to respect people's culture, traditions, and so that's why those who are ready to
But the
explore
culture
this
and tradition
opportunity.
is costing you pain.
Yes, it's not for you and I to decide. It's not for you and I to discuss. Because people are dying.
So what they're
We just
saying
read
now
the
is that the
report.
cattle should not come to the south.
The reports
So
we're getting that people are, the herders and farmers are still killing each other. So what we're saying is that we need to find other solutions outside issue of culture. I think that's a very sensitive area for Africans, and it's something that we have to set aside.
I guess that's where
That's where we are. That's why we keep recording deaths every day.
See, if we decide to hold on to that culture or tradition, to be very honest with you, we will never move an inch in the next 100 years.
That's why we need to deregulate. I know, we need to restructure That's the word, restructure. So those of you that want to go fast, go. Those of you that want to stay here, let's stay here. That's restructure. Anyway, we have to run. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you on the show. We have to bring you back. We always love having you. That's all we can take. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.